Hey everyone, welcome back. So I already had a Yareli build planned to cover. Some of you actually asked me in my two most recent videos if I had a new Yareli thing up my sleeve after the Veilbreaker changes. Well, I hope this is what you asked for. Viewers beware, this build is still a little copium. It's very comfortable, but the DPS rotation is just a little too slow and dependent on having level tiles to ensure decent KPM. I was getting somewhere around 70 KPM using this, so while it works, the time taken to kill is a bit underwhelming for reasons I'll explain later in the video. Use the towers, or just use this in squad. It definitely isn't enough solo. Ironically, this is even worse than my Riptide Zarr nuke video I made several months ago, but I have no idea if that Zarr setup even still works anymore due to the ammo nerfs. It seems to be okay, and if you run enough ammo mutation and ammo max, you will probably make it work. Anyways, today we're looking at a Riptide nuke build. This is extremely simple, which is why the video is short. There are a couple small interesting things going on, but there is only one Yareli build, a primer, and your pet. Essentially, we're using the post-Veilbreaker Terrify to full strip enemies in a spherical area around you. Then, Riptide pulls them all in and kills them. Now, because Riptide gains damage per enemy sucked in, range is an extremely important stat on this build to make sure the damage is high enough that Steel Path enemies actually die in one cast. There is also something really weird about Riptide. Only enemies within a certain radius of the center maelstrom take damage. The actual damage radius is pretty generous and there is zero fall off, but this also means that enemies that don't get pulled in enough won't get hit. Natural Talent and Matter Eye's power transfer buff increase casting speed. Unfortunately, running casting speed shortens the duration of the suck before Riptide explodes, meaning there is less time for more enemies to be absorbed into the middle. Not only to hit, but also to scale up Riptide's damage. The strength of the suck is not scaled up to account for less suck time when running casting speed. Therefore, slotting Natural Talent or using Power Transfer actively nerfs the damage scaling and kill potential of Riptide. Yes, modding for casting speed actually makes Riptide worse. Nice one, DE. Because this setup assumes offer 1, you can actually keep Marilena and combine this setup with the Zarr Riptide nuke setup. You know why this is useful? Because it's no different than just bringing a Zarr for no reason. You want to know why you want to bring one? Because the Riptide nuke does jack shit to overguard, and while it can kill Acolytes, it's somewhat slow. Not useless, but slow. So having a Zarr in your pocket for them is always handy. You don't have to kill the Eximi immediately, but having the delete option there is handy. And if you want to shoot into the Riptide, well, the synergy still works. You just have to dismount Marilena the instant you cast Riptide, and this will let you shoot your Zarr. Otherwise, normally it's impossible to do anything while casting her 4. So, shoot your Epitaph, cast Terrify, cast Riptide immediately after. Watch everything die. Or, if you're on Marilena, dismount and shoot your Zarr and watch everything explode with hundreds of thousands of damage. And prettier crits. So for all of you Yareli enjoyers out there, let's look at that build. The main subsume is obviously Terrify, and because Riptide scales with enemies sucked in, this means we need to build for range. A lot of it. We got 235 on this build, which is enough for 35.25 meter radius full strip on Terrify, and also 35.25 meter suck on Riptide. Just keep in mind realistically, only enemies within 25 or so meters of Riptide will actually be sucked in enough to take damage from the Maelstrom explosion. We actually tanked duration on this build because her important abilities don't need it. Riptide has a fixed suck and explode time. Marilena doesn't care about duration at all. Aqua Blades is kinda useless on this build, unless you're trying to stop melee units, but it still only lasts 10 seconds here, so don't bother. Terrify's armor strip only lasts for 5.6 seconds, but because the entire point of the build is to cast Riptide immediately after Terrify, lest they run away and cower in fear, there really is no reason to increase the armor strip duration. Yes, Terrify is not a permanent armor strip. Efficiency is kept at 150 with an unmaxed fleeting expertise so that we can shield gate properly. A max rank fleeting drops Terrify to lasting only 3.25 seconds, which is almost enough to not even be able to kill with Riptide before the armor strip ends. Also, 160 efficiency means your Riptide only costs 40 energy. Yareli has 113 shields. If you want to shield gate properly on her, she needs to regain all shields in a single cast. 40 energy Riptide requires 282% energy to shield conversion. We don't have that on this build. We only have 230. This is because I wanted to slot Primed Fulmination on Epitaph, so it only has one Augur mod. By staying at rank 4, not only is our Terrify actually usable so that it lasts long enough for Riptide to kill, but a 50 cost Riptide will regenerate 115 shields on this setup, perfectly enough to shield gate properly. Prime sure-footed is standard since we're priming with Epitaph, but if you don't have it, slot Handspring or Pain Threshold. A non-fulmination Epitaph actually still primes pretty well and is very manageable as long as you don't shoot it directly in front of your face. Our strength benchmark today is 163. You need 167 to full strip with Terrify. I couldn't reach it, and I also couldn't justify sourcing strength elsewhere just to get an extra 4%. I also really didn't want to D-rank overextended here when the entire point of the build is to nuke as big of an area as possible. As I mentioned earlier, with the slow cast, even though Riptide has a 35.25 meter suck range, its kill hitbox is really only within about 20 meters of the Maelstrom center. So to solve this problem, I slotted Molt Augmented. This not only gives us a very early full strip by just building 4% strength out of the 60, which only requires 17 enemies by the way, but it also scales our Riptide damage even higher so that in the long run, any kind of basic Steel Path survival will continue to be one shot for Mer 4. You might also wonder why I didn't just take Matarai. Well, there's the natural talent problem that actively nerfs Riptide I mentioned earlier, but also this is a nuke build. I want to ensure I have energy at all times, so I went Xeneric. Hard and Wellspring both gives you 5 energy per second, but also 20% extra strength when casting abilities inside of it. The very first time you encounter a group of enemies after starting the mission, set up Xeneric for energy regen, then stand inside of it and cast Terrify. Doing this causes you to cast with 183 strength, which is enough to 100% strip. And if you kill all of those enemies, you most likely already reached the 17 enemy requirement for Molt Augmented to get 4% strength. Now, you don't need Xeneric anymore to full strip and can single cast Terrify to turn their bars red. I would also suggest bringing Magus Anomaly since you're going to be going into Operator about once every 30 seconds anyways to reset Wellspring. This will help a little bit with grouping and make Riptide even more consistent for a higher damage ceiling. The Epitaph build I recommend today assumes you have Prime sure-footed, otherwise, slot whatever you want here. Be it Anemic Agility, another Augur mod, whatever. But since Riptide nukes in a massive area, your priority is priming as many enemies as possible at once. Still bring Ammo Mutation because the ammo nerfs from Veilbreaker hurt. Besides, you're spamming this as much as possible anyways. None of your other weapons matter, but you can bring them for the Acolytes or Eximi if you wish. I'm just gonna drop this corrosive Kuva Zarr build if you want to use it. I strongly recommend not spamming this into the floor because ammo problems. It's specifically meant for Overguard and Acolytes, otherwise you're gonna have to sacrifice a slot for Ammo Drum and also bring a carrier for Ammo Case. The melee is a vast lock to armor strip Acolytes since they can't be tanked with Terrify. Alternatively, feel free to bring whatever melee you want since any good melee with a full build can also rip Acolytes apart, as well as Eximi. I'm still advising to bring a Panzer today just for the safety and energy generation from Viral Quills, since Viral Quills spread so easily across the room, and any enemy tagged with Viral Quills is considered a pet assist. Synth Deconstruct will proc constantly, and you'll get a ton of health orbs for Equilibrium on Yareli. Synth Fiber lets you pick up these even at full HP, so you should never run out. Devolution for infinite cat lives, Martyr to cover you if you screw up, Radar, which is useful to know where to cast Riptide, and Vacuum. And that's it. You just find enemies while spamming Epitaph, cast Terrify, and cast Riptide immediately after. Watch stuff die after waiting 2 seconds. Kind of annoying, but it does work, and if you want, you can still hop on Marilina, cast your 4, dismount, and shoot into it with your viral hunting munitions Zarr. Acolyte spawns, mailing them to death, or shoot your Vast-Lock and then blow it up with your Zarr. Eximi problems? Shoot your Zarr. That's the new Nuke Yareli. Have fun! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible, like I've done with covering the Veilbreaker update. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. You won't miss out on any of that, do you? And that'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.